What is happening to dark rides in the UK? For several years now, there's been one part of my life that for most people might just be enjoyable, but not to the point where it's important for shaping who they are as a person. As people who know me well will most certainly know, that since 2021, I've been a theme park enthusiast. But it's not that simple. People who know this about me will just assume my life is filled with the pure excitement of roller coasters, and that's just simply not the case. Sure, I enjoy them, and there are some that help me start new chapters of my life and help them unfold. Those I hold close to my heart. But there's not much depth for my interest if that was the case. There's another aspect to these captivating attractions, something that can be an art form, and different types can be a complete opposite experience to each other. They are dark rides, especially the ones with plenty of animatronics and physical props. I've experienced over 70 dark rides over the years, some which are incredible experiences, then lighting, audio and visual effects to the next level. One of which is Hex, which created my love for these art of attractions. They are more than just rides. Then, of course, there are the bad, such as Ninjago the Ride, where there's absolutely nothing to see apart from low quality video screens and unsightly unthemed corrugated metal walls. Unfortunately, the UK hasn't seen many good dark rides in recent years. Of course, exceptions are visible, such as the Curse Alton Manor or Wallace and Gromit. But one case of a terrible new dark ride is when Cadbury World unveiled that they would be replacing their all-time classic Cadabra with what was one of the few UK dark rides which still had a sense of old-school animatronic magic left in, with an awful screen-based ride known as Cadbury's Chocolate Quest. It's upsetting to see not just mine, but also other people's childhoods thrown away or given to collectors never to be seen again. But that's Merlin Entertainment for you. So if you want your childhood torn apart in skip, then Cadbury World's right on your advertising avenue. It's a crying shame that no one can replace the legendary designer John Wardley, creator of Bubbleworks, Toyland Tours and The Haunted House. Unfortunately now they're all defunct. With a second building, there have been many different rides over the years. And since Wardley's magical toy factory was filled with kinetic energy generated from flying pink elephants and racing snails, the building is still used, but each incarnation uses the boat ride less and less. First there was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, only using half of the boat ride before sending guests into an extension of the building where they would ride in a simulated glass elevator. I have a soft spot for Charlie. It was a childhood classic that I miss a lot, and most of the screens were purposed to enhance the physical sets. However, a lot of the scenes were made smaller and there was a lot of wasted space when compared to the previous two rides. No one ever got to see them in person. Then it came the dungeon. The boat ride was filled with visible empty spaces, and only a small part of the experience, which for the record was an added charge on an already expensive Alton Towers. Currently the building is used for the scare attraction, Amigos in the Afterlife. A good fun attraction where you can shake the maracas to Barry's a little wormy. I personally really enjoyed it, and so much to the point where my face was glowing both from the pure joy of relive my childhood and the brightest UV paint you'll ever set your eyes on. However, it's not perfect, as the majority of the building, the boat ride, is left abandoned, gathering dust again. And not for the first time, as it happened to Charlie for 4 years before the dungeon was announced. The elevator side of the building was turned into a separate Halloween attraction, Trick or Treat Town. This coexisted with the dungeon at first, but it's still operated since Amigos brought its vibrant taste of Mexico through the doors of the former Wonka factory. Trick or Treat Town's interior is unrecognisable from Charlie's old building, as you used to walk down a corridor and then inside the great glass elevator, which was fully enclosed in themed walls and had projection screens, so you never saw any of the internal infrastructure. However, in the scare attraction, it's actually rather interesting to look around and how tall the two boxes on top of the building really are. Even the trusses the projectors were attached to are still clearly visible. The theming they have put together in the scare attraction is actually really impressive. It's like, if it's of a large scale, it doesn't feel too dissimilar to that of an old school physically themed dark ride. The front facade, however, looks awful. When Alton Towers put together the dungeon, they knew the inside of the former elevator section wouldn't be used for the attraction. So what they decided to do was go to B&Q and buy 100 tins of black paint, instead of continuing the wooden log effect they had already done on the right hand side of the building. If you have one look at the facade, you can instantly see the shape of the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory front is still visible. And it's just looked unfinished, despite looking like that for nearly 6 years now. As you can gather, Merlin put minimal effort into their dark rides. The Curse Alton Manor is a dark ride by Merlin, and in terms of recent years, is one of the few exceptions to break the rule of them being bad at dark rides. There's few screens, and they are just there in the background to enhance the real-life tactile objects. That's the best example, as well as Nemesis Subterra, which is mostly a walkthrough made up of a pre-show and a mini scare maze at the end. The drop tower is good fun, but it's the whole setting that makes the ride, especially those back prodders that make you feel like you're being injected in the most sensitive part of your spine. My two favourite dark rides open in the same year, 2000. Hex is by far my favourite, though I only rode it first for the first time recently, since I did 3 years ago. It's a beautiful ride. The first takes place in the historic Towers ruins themselves. Then you watch a goosebump inducing pre-show, which indeed I know word for word because I've listened to Jim Carter's voice so many times. The final pre-show is the Octagon, an incredible demonstration of lighting, pyrotechnics and audio. And then there's the Vault, the Vekoma Madhouse. This is so well themed that people who don't know about the behind the scenes are led to believe it's actually still inside the stately home, until the gondola rocks and the room begins to rotate, giving the illusion you are inverting. Valhalla at the park formerly known as Blackpool Pleasure Beach is a very close second entry on the list. It's an intimate flume ride featuring 3 drops, a turntable, and incredible lighting and pyrotechnics. It was the last ride designed by the park's previous owner, Jeffrey Thompson, before he sadly passed away in 2004 when the ownership was passed down to his daughter, Amanda Thompson. The ride features various scenes based on different levels you journey into the Norse afterlife, Valhalla, such as a heated room, a jungle of spirits and an icy landscape, which is originally at a low temperature inside, however this has since been changed to make it more reliable. The ride originally did feature some Viking figures, none being animatronics, however there were still physical props. An animatronic 2-headed wolf, which you encounter near the beginning of your almost 10-minute voyage. The aforementioned changes began in 2011, when the facade had suffered quite significant damage from weathering. The whole facade was reconstructed, with a much more modern look for the 2012 season. In 2019 it was announced that Valhalla was playing closed for the whole 2020 season and would reopen in 2021 while they updated the ride system and theming. This was of course delayed till 2022 due to the coronavirus pandemic, and further delayed till 2023, believed to be issues with international shipping. In 2023, the ride officially opened on the 10th of May. To mixed reactions. I personally really enjoyed it when I rode it in September of that year, but it does appear that people do enjoy it lots more after a while, to consider the changes, especially to the iconic soundtrack. I love the new soundtrack, it feels like a journey, like it should, and was created by the notable Stranger, who also did the Big One and Icon soundtracks for the same park, which are also incredible. Some of the additions included repainted boats, more Viking props, the original waterfalls inside being replaced with atmospheric red lighting strips, and more reliable fire effects. The first turntable now goes close to all the way around and leads into a forward drop. New animatronic spirits, a new anti-rollback system on the lifts are also installed. The anti-rollbacks are a lot louder than the old ones, which is my only criticism of the ride which is that the audio is too quiet to properly hear it. This, however, seems to have been experimented on in the past year, so it's not a major issue. So what is happening with dark rides in the UK? The answer, unfortunately for the most part, is that they're becoming far too reliant on screens and digital effects. In my opinion, if screens must be used, they should enhance the real life scenes, not the other way around. Blackpool is certainly the best part for dark rides in the country, although my second favourite one after Valhalla, River Caves, which opened almost 120 years ago, has been closed all year and we don't know when it will reopen. Legoland has the most, but aside from Fly to the Skyline, the only good primarily screen-based dark ride in the UK, and Ninjago, the most boring ride in existence, they're all alright and enjoyable, but don't stand out in my rankings. So if you have a taste in seeing real things, you'll go to Blackpool Pleasure Beach or Sundown Adventureland, and if you seem to like the virtual world, go to Thorpe Park or Legoland. If you want something where the rides that fit into both categories, go to Alton Towers or Chessington. But there's one thing I've noticed, and that's that there are more gaps in traditional effects that are used in the rides in the UK. And hopefully, parks will someday realise that no matter how good quality a screen is, an animatronic, static figure, or even physical cutout always looks far superior. Completed by Willow on the 5th of December 2024.